What's going on, everyone, and welcome to Movie Emporium's TV review of the new Netflix original series, Resident Evil Infinite Darkness. This series, of course, is based off the very famous Resident Evil video game series. Now, before we begin, if you like this channel, awesome, hit the subscribe button to join Movie Emporium, hit that notification bell at the top to find what's coming next. If you like any of the videos, awesome, hit that like button, as well as commenting below any video that you watch, including this one. So Resident Evil Infinite Darkness actually takes place between the games of Resident Evil 4 and Resident Evil 5. If you've ever played those games, which I know a lot of people have, you know that time frame, so on and so forth. So it takes place in 2006, and it follows Leon S. Kennedy, who was the protagonist, of course, in Resident Evil 4 as well as 2, and Claire Redfield, who was also a protagonist in the second game, and basically follows them as they investigate this cyber attack, this kind of zombie infestation that happens to infiltrate the White House. And so what ends up happening is, with the help of Leon S. Kennedy and a couple new characters named Jason and Xing Wei, they go on an investigation to who's caused the incident, why the incident happened, who caused the cyber attack. And then like I said, we have Claire Redfield, who ends up investigating this group called the Mad Dogs, which were, a while ago, they were this infiltration group that works for the military, you know, kind of a military group. And they basically get involved in another country with some kind of virus that's spreading and so on and so forth. So it's in essence very much a Resident Evil story in its aspects, because you got two main characters that you know very well, and you got a story that's dealing with some zombies and some outbreak of some sort. And so I'll leave it at that, you know, leave the plot at that, because I know there's people that want to see this, that don't want to be spoiled, and I know this is a very popular franchise. Leon S. Kennedy and Claire Redfield are very popular characters, and there's also stuff I can't talk about because it's under embargo and whatnot, because I could see this movie early. And so with that said, the Resident Evil franchise, if you know it, a lot of times, most times you love it. If you're listening to this review, you obviously love the franchise and want to know my opinion. And I'm also a huge fan of the franchise. A lot of the lore is very convoluted in my personal opinion. They do some things, as these video game franchises do, as they get more and more into the lore of the Resident Evil and Biohazard and all these, you know, plague viruses and stuff like that, where the stories and the characters don't necessarily meet up with the ideas and concepts of what they're trying to present. So what happens in Resident Evil 1 and 2 doesn't necessarily mean it's going to find itself back into Resident Evil 7 and 8. It's just the unfortunate nature of just how the franchises had kind of progressed through the years. But at least it tries to be somewhat coherent, unlike stuff like what Kojima does, or, you know, Hideo Kojima with his Metal Gear series, or the Kingdom Hearts series, where it just gets so out of whack that you're just like completely confused. You love it, but you're still confused. But here, you know, it's dealing with like the T virus, like not the movie, but the idea of Resident Evil is dealing with like the T virus and the biohazard, and, you know, the zombies and the plagueist people, and, you know, Resident Evil 7 is dealing with that black ooze stuff and like that. And it really is all about just the mood and atmosphere and how these characters represent the whole when you're playing the game. And that's what I was hoping for with this movie, was something that was somewhat coherent, kind of fit into that space of 4 and 5, you know, kind of bridge the gap, and give us something fun and unique, which I thought the trailer was entertaining. I really liked what I was seeing. I think the visual effects were looking good. And after playing Resident Evil 8 and 7, which I think are the best in the franchise, I felt this movie was going to be a huge step forward in the video game genre, because they're trying to at least do something different and trying to bring into the ether some decent quality video game movies. At least they're trying to. And so that's why it breaks my heart, and I'm going to get a lot of crap for this, I'm sure. This film, like a lot of the other Resident Evil films, even the Paul Anderson films and the animated films that have come out, there is something that gets lost in translation when it comes to making a video game movie out of a video game property. And we've seen it time and time again, where the ideas and concepts are just not truly realized. And I think the problem becomes, and I think a lot of people know this, even though there are some video game movies that are halfway decent, like the last Mortal Kombat movie was not that bad. It was actually pretty decent, but it had its major problems. But like that said, you know, when it comes to making a video game movie, you have to conceptually bring all this lore, all these ideas, all these people into a 2-hour representation, when you have something like Resident Evil Village or Resident Evil 4, and they're like 8 to 12 hour experiences. So you can flesh out the story, you can make it a little more coherent, even though it's not the most complicated material in the world. It has its moments. I think the story of Resident Evil 7 and 8 were fantastic. They represented very well. They had a fine finite beginning and finite end. But Resident Evil Infinite Darkness just falls into that same category of, we're going to bring your beloved property to life like every other anime movie that they've done. We're not going to give you any context. We're going to give you a very incoherent plot, and we're going to completely ruin your characters that you truly love. Now, with that said, it's not the worst video game movie I've ever seen, but the movie's not good. It doesn't make any sense. I'm going to go off on a tangent real quick. This is a movie, an hour and 50-minute movie that got split into 4 parts because it allows, I believe, Netflix to get better viewership and stuff like that to prove that it was worth the money that they paid for it. But after each episode, and this happened with Eden, the other anime series that did this, there's just really nothing there that makes any sense. There's no plot there. There's no, the plot that's there is just, it feels like a video game movie where it's just so incoherent and so bonkers stupid that I don't know what I was watching after 2 episodes or 3 episodes. It leads into some really interesting ideas and concepts that are very much in the lore aspect of Resident Evil. It gives us Easter eggs and so on and so forth. But as episodes 3 and 4 happen, this is the stuff I can't talk about, so I'll be very, very vague. I'm like, okay, that is a really cool concept and idea, but you didn't earn your aspects of getting to that point. You made it feel like that you were trying to stuff so much into 2 episodes that once that stuff happened in 3 and 4, I'm like, what? I'm like, huh? The stuff that Claire Redfield finds in this movie could be its own 3-season series, and it's spread into 4 episodes. The stuff with Leon S. Kennedy it's fine, but once again, it could be 3 seasons of its own series, and instead it's 4 episodes. And when they were making this movie, I think they were more worried about the visual effects. Once again, they have problems with Uncanny Valley, which is when the eyes look like they're just staring off into space. The movements of the characters are very stilted. It feels like a very expensive, cheap movie, and that's a lot of times what these animes are, especially when they come to Resident Evil movies or Final Fantasy movies. They're very well represented when it comes to the look and feel of the world itself, but when it comes to the characters and the dialogue and the way they're modeled and stuff like that and the way they move and stuff like that, it just feels really cheap. And it's my personal nitpick. Some people probably won't bother, but I think that's really all they cared about. I don't think the translation worked really well. I think once again it's very stilted dialogue, which is nothing new for Resident Evil, as we know. But when we've gotten to 2021 and they're still making the same mistakes that they made on Degeneration and Vendetta and whatever the other Resident Evil movie came out, and it just doesn't seem like they ever learned from their mistakes and stuff like that. I mean, you can go back and look at Final Fantasy Spirits Within, and it's the same thing. It's the same problems. It's poor storytelling, it's poor concepts, incoherent plotting. You have a great franchise that you just completely dispel upon, and it once again proves that video games, especially movies, are not they're not well represented. There's a reason they keep getting laughed out of the theater, because they're just awful things that they get produced. When the best movie, video game movie, is Werewolves Within or even Mortal Kombat to an extent, you really just not doing it. And like I said, there are Easter eggs that you'll 100% know if you love Resident Evil. When it comes to this movie in general, or this miniseries, I'm calling it a movie or whatever, but when it comes down to it, if you go into this not knowing anything about Resident Evil, not knowing anything about some of the Easter eggs that you see in there, you're not going to understand what's going on in this, and that is a problem when it comes to trying to boil down a movie like this. It's meant for the super fans, and even the super fans are going to feel like they got slapped in the face, because once again, it's another misfire on something of a travesty of events when it comes to movie making and when it comes to video game movie making, because this movie's terrible. It really is. But that's it. That's going to be my take on Resident Evil Infinite Darkness. Thank you so much for watching. In the comments below, if you've played Resident Evil or if you watched any of the movies, what is your favorite Resident Evil game? What's your favorite Resident Evil movie? What's your least favorite? All that good stuff. So let me know in the comments. But otherwise, if you like what you see on this channel, hit the subscribe button to join Movie Emporium. Hit that notification bell top to find what's coming next. Otherwise, we'll see you guys on the next video. Peace out.